Welcome to the Lead Her Ship Unveiled Summit. I'm excited to introduce you to our next speaker, Zoe Martin. Zoe helps you preserve what you'll leave behind, not just assets, but identity, values, and legacy through video interviews, heirloom albums, and custom portraits. The title of her talk is The Power of Storytelling: Why Your Family or Business Stories Matter and How They Shape Your Legacy. Zoe, I'm excited to hear what you have to share. And I'm going to disappear. The floor is yours.
Excellent. All right. You all get to hear me sing for a second. Sisters, sisters, there were never such devoted sisters. This beautiful young woman is my sister, Christina, and her only child, my niece, Caitlin. This portrait was taken in December of 2022. Are y'all able to see my screen?
Yes. So we
Okay,
see your
perfect.
full Canva, but I think you have to hit the present button.
It says stop share, and that's why I'm questioning. It says it's paused.
Hmm. Yeah, we can see it. What I see though is your whole Canva, not just your slideshow.
Hang on, let's see if this makes a difference. How is that?
There we go.
Is that it?
That's
Okay.
close. I think that.
Whoa, we're gonna back up a second. All right.
Okay.
All right. So my sister and her only child were in my studio December of 2022. And the significance of that is that Christina, my sister, took her last breath on Christmas Eve of 2023. It was this huge meteor to my heart. It was such a traumatic experience, and it shaped my business into finding my purpose. And it was incredible. She was 40 years old. When she was 35, she was a marathon runner. She was the epitome of health. You can see her waving there. She was so full of life. And from the outside, you'd never know that there was anything wrong. I was 10 years old when she was born. Did any of y'all have Cabbage Patch dolls? Like, she was my real life Cabbage Patch. I'm the oldest of six. We have another brother already in heaven. This brother is in Australia. But when I was 10, Christina was born. When I was 11, Cecilia, and then Stephanie 3 years after that. So we were really close. And even though there was that big age gap, like there was a bond. And the crazy thing about it is that you can see when we would get together, like we were such a great connection for one another. But all of the sisters would tell you that Christina was our glue. Christina was the one that we would call when we had problems, if we had questions, if we just wanted to talk. It's really difficult now that she's gone because we don't call each other as often, even though we are connected and we still love each other and everything. Christina was just the person. She was a cyclist. She went hiking. She was just fun. She was a beautiful soul. In I think this was November of 2020. You can tell by the mask. She got to ring the bell and we were ecstatic. She actually has a mother-in-law who is a two-time breast cancer survivor who was with her through so many of her appointments, sitting by her side and encouraging her. And so we here, even though she was 35 when she got the stage 4 diagnosis, we didn't think there would only be 5 years with her. We just kind of figured she was going to live forever. She wanted to be 100.
Zoe, I want to let you know your slides are not advancing. We're on the first picture of you, your sister and daughter.
This is crazy. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to present the slides because as much as I love them and as much as I feel like they're part of this, I don't want you all to get lost in the fact that I'm explaining something that you can't see. So we're just going to go on without the slides. So that the next picture would have been my hand in my sister's hand. And that is significant because when she went into hospice, I was with her and she asked me to stay with her. I lived with them for 2 weeks, the last 2 weeks of her life. And when we found out that she was going into hospice, all of the sisters were going to be together, and we hadn't had a professional portrait done in over 30 years, which is a really long time. And we had lots of, phone pictures and things, excuse me, but a professional portrait is one last thing that I wanted to have of the four of us together. And so I contacted a friend who lived in the area and said, Christina, she can't even walk right now. I'm going to need you to come to our house. And she was like, absolutely, I'll do that. Well, one of the sisters lived out of state and hadn't seen Christina in quite a while. And when she saw her in that bed, she was so frail. She lost all her hair again. She had oxygen. And she was just not the same person that she was before. Like, this was just a shell of who she was, and it didn't show her vibrancy and her value as a person. I knew that she didn't want to be remembered that way. And obviously my sisters and I don't want to remember her like that, because that was just a body. That was not her life. And so I canceled that photographer, and we'll never have that opportunity to have a professional portrait again. And so the picture that was on the slideshow was the four of us from over 30 years ago. That was a Walmart. It's bad lighting, and it's a professional portrait, but it's the only professional portrait that I have of the four of us together. And so the value in that is that it started planting a seed for me in the idea of portraits. But more than that, Christina woke up one day and it was just her and I in the room, and she said, Zoe, go get the letters. And I was ecstatic. They had recently moved into a new house. It was not completely unpacked. She had downsized in hopes that she'd be able to take care of the smaller place, but she knew exactly where those letters were. She had her sister Cecilia create custom stationery for them, and I hadn't seen them. So I was ecstatic to go get them. And I went and sat down beside her, and as I started to open them up, I realized that she hadn't written a single one. And my heart broke. At this point, she wasn't even able to hold her cup. There was no way she was going to write those letters. And here I was frantically trying to find pens, thinking, oh, what color ink is she going to want to write these in? And when I saw that she hadn't written them, I said, here's what we're going to do, sweetheart. I'm going to get my phone. You're going to say what you want to say, and we'll worry about getting pen to paper later. So I got to record 2 videos, and then she fell asleep. When she woke up to record the third one, she was so groggy, it was difficult to make out what she was saying. But I got those 3 videos, and she didn't wake up to record again. So after the celebration of life, I went to my niece and I said, I've got something for you. And I took out those letters and explained that it wasn't my place to write on them, but that this was the custom stationery that she had Cecilia create, all Disney. And then I started to play the video, but their dog was at the foot of the bed. And as soon as the dog heard Christina's voice, she whipped her head around. And my niece and I just started bawling because we understood the power of hearing her voice. And if any of you have lost someone, you know that having that voicemail, being able to hear them on a home family video, that is just an incredible a remembrance, right? It's their legacy. And so after that, 5 days after I lost Christina, I was contacted by Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep. It's a nonprofit that I was an affiliate photographer for at the time. They provide remembrance photography to families who've lost a baby. And it may not have been the best timing for me to accept that call, but I am such a giver. And my heart went out to that family, knowing if I didn't go, they were not going to have professional pictures of their baby. I was so grateful that the nurse was standing between us when I found out that there was an older sibling that they weren't going to allow to meet the baby. The family didn't know that I'd just lost my little sister, but it just hurt my heart so much. The tears just started to flow, and that nurse had her back to the family. It took me a minute to gain my composure. Unfortunately, it was just tears. I pulled myself together. I photographed that family. And when I got home, I contacted headquarters and said, I can't do this anymore. I love the organization. I love the mission. I think it's wonderful, but I've never experienced that loss personally. And I need to find a way to honor my sister. So I am still a community volunteer. For now, I lay me down to sleep, and I still raise awareness, and it's a beautiful organization, and I encourage other people to learn about them. But I went to a conference in January with a mentor, and I explained to them how this hole in my heart, I needed to fill it to honor Christina's legacy and find a way to make it part of my work. That my idea was to no longer do personal brand photography, no longer headshots, but to create legacy for people in a meaningful way through custom portraits and a full experience with hair and makeup and getting to know the family and choosing their wardrobe, giving them tangible wall art that we would hang for them. Not only that, but I wanted to record milestone videos, living eulogies, giving them opportunities to pass down their family heritage. And we'll get to the business part of it later for your business. But let me start with this. That mentor told me that I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't niche down to do this because I was leaving money on the table. And I thought, oh, you're right. And I didn't do it. But in April, I got a coach named Benita. And I wish I could show you these pictures. My coach, Benita, I was telling her all of that had transpired and how if I didn't have to shoot anything, I say shoot, and that's a strong word. If I didn't have another session except to create legacies for people and honor my sister, it would thrill me. And she said, let's talk about that. So we dug in a little bit more, and she said, Zoe, if I had my sisters were close by, this is something that I would like to do for them. There were 4 children that were they were all able to speak and they could all hear, but they were raised by a deaf mom. I can only imagine the trouble that those kids got into, because I'm telling you what, when I got to photograph them, it was so fun to see them interact together and the different personalities and the relationships they had with one another. But I was able to photograph them that Thanksgiving. They all came to the area. And so we have this beautiful custom framed wall art of the 3 generations. And it's incredible to know the process that it went into giving them the whole experience, and to see how this was something I had them write in a journal explaining what this meant to them and how meaningful it was for them. There's even more to that story, but I'm going to go on. When Benita told me that I needed to dig into this, and maybe I actually did need to niche down to do this for other people, about a week or 2 later, I had met with Kim Spencer and her husband, and she's the leader of Behind Her brand. And I explained to them how I was struggling. I had this inner turmoil of whether or not I should continue to do this for other people, or if I should, keep photography just a big expanse of offerings. And they said, no, Zoe, this is your purpose. You need to do this. And I wonder how many of us, we feel like we have to have permission. Someone else needs to give us the permission, when in reality, we can do this for ourselves. And it was kind of like a V8 moment. I could have told myself, do this. This is what you want to do. And I know now that this is my purpose. And I wish I hadn't waited so long. But the really cool thing, recently I had a family contact me because their Mima is turning 100 this weekend, and they wanted me to photograph the 100th birthday party. I mean, 100 years. Can you imagine the information that this wonderful woman, the queen bee, has seen and heard? And what I said was, I would love to do that for you, but let's back up a little bit. When was the last time you all were photographed together as a family? And professionally, they had never been. And I said, how many generations do you have? And there were 4, which again, I mean, for me, I have 3 generations in one part of our family, but the rest, there's not 4 generations. And that was incredible alone. And I said, let's get together and let's do a family portrait session. So we have a multi-generational portrait session of the 4 of them. And again, I wish you could see the photo here. The queen bee, she looks like the queen. She has this beautiful blue, it looks like taffeta or silk skirt with this beautiful white blouse and she has a tiara on, and she's the center of attention in this multi-generational portrait shoot. But what's really sweet about this is that along with the professional hair and makeup and getting to help them choose their wardrobe and everything, I got to know them on a deeper level. I know them all by name. I could tell you a little bit about each and every one of them. But the Mima and the great grandbaby, who I believe he's 2. Well, he was about to turn 2. His birthday was like the following week. She and him, he was getting a little fussy. They were playing peekaboo. This 99-year-old great grandmother and her little great grandson were playing peekaboo because she was trying to console him. And it was the most precious thing. And I know that I'm not even a part of that family, but because I watched it, I know that their family is going to remember the whole experience and be able to look back on that with honor and with pride and joy, especially when they're seeing that custom framed wall art for them. But the other part to that story is that I wanted to make sure that we had her story recorded in her words. Winston Churchill said something along the lines of, history is going to honor me fondly because I'm going to tell my story. And I think that's so critical for all of us to tell our story the way we want it to be told, because if we're not telling it, somebody else is going to tell it, and they're going to tell it in their version. So give your perspective meaning by telling it yourself. All right, this family, I got to go and interview the Mima a couple of weeks after the portrait session. And this weekend, we're going to take the video. We're going to put in the portraits that we took, as well as images from her 100 years of life, and incorporate them into a slideshow that we're going to be presenting at the 100th birthday party this weekend. So that was all it that like that. I'm super pumped about being able to do this, not just for families, but for corporations and organizations. When you were onboarded, if you've ever worked in a corporation, big companies will give you a history, and they'll tell you who founded the company, and they'll tell you what their thought was and whether or not it stayed in the family and the turnover of their leadership and things. Even hospitals, you'll walk down the hallway and you'll see all those pictures of the different people who were the president or the CEO of these organizations. And that's great, but I don't have the slideshow to show you. There's a single mom who came in with her little boy, and maybe life didn't turn out the way she expected to, but here she is pulling herself by her bootstraps and creating a life and honoring her son by starting this business. So her being able to tell that story and have portraits with him, and having that hung on the wall so that it's got value and meaning, and he can look back on that in 10 or 15 years and appreciate what his mama did for him. I think that is incredible. So the really cool part about this is, yes, I do this. Yes, I offer this, and it's all able to be done professionally by me, but you can do it yourself. How many of you have your phone sitting right beside you, or you're watching this on your phone? You have recording capabilities. You can take pictures. So that we'll talk about the free gift a little bit later, but I want to encourage you to do this, and I want to encourage you to get started and not to wait. My sister was 40. It's such a short amount of time that we have on this life. And as much as we would love to be immortal, we're not. So there's no better time to start than the present. Your legacy, it's already in motion. The way that people, when they hear your name or your business name, what they say about you, that's what they will remember. But again, you have the opportunity to tell your story yourself. You don't have to do it in front of a crowd of people. You don't even have to share it with your coworkers if you don't want to. This can be something that you do for yourself, for your family, to connect you to future generations so they have the history of your life for them to honor. I also wanted to mention that because my sister passed away from breast cancer, these legacy sessions, when you book with me, 10% get donated back to the Bridge Breast Network here in Dallas, Fort Worth, and they provide underserved resources for breast cancer in communities that might be a little underserved. So I think it's really important to know your purpose and to let other people hear what that purpose was. So I want to encourage you to give yourself permission to do this. You don't need to have somebody tell you that it's okay. Your story matters. And I think Linda Sunshine West said this, that you think my story doesn't matter. And that is so opposite, polar opposite of what it is. As a matter of fact, there's so many things about your life that people don't know. We see surface level. When Linda Fisk was sharing this morning her story of how she overcame, after the marathon running, incredible. I don't know how many of you knew that, but I sure didn't. So you want to consider how that you're willing to do things for other people, and you need to do this for yourself. I cannot encourage that more than I am right now. So I just want to, I know that there's probably some questions, and I'm trying to figure out how to, oh, I'm cutting down to time. Look at me, Linda. Let me let you step in, and if there's any questions, we'll get those answered now.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to jump in. Linda's
Hi,
running the background
Kathy.
there, and no, that was so amazing, Zoe. And oh, you had me in tears, and you had me, yeah, just re-inspired that it's so important to do all of those things. And not sure if anyone in the group had any questions. Did anyone have any questions for Zoe? Well, we got a couple minutes here. If not, then I'll kind of jump in. And I love what you were saying, both the idea of we do tend to ask for permission, but even, looking back on what you were saying too about that value of putting these stories into some kind of context that's more permanent, whether it's photographs or video or even an audio recording of your voice and your story and that. And the idea of not to wait. And, going back to what you're saying earlier too about the idea of when you were told, oh, don't focus down and niche down, stay general. And I really believe you need to follow your passion. And when you talk about this, you just glow. Like the energy that comes from you when you talk about what you are doing now, this is what you need to do. And that bigger picture of regular photography, you could do that too if someone asks for it. But I think focusing your heart where it is, and like you say, honoring your sister, I think is just exactly where you need to be.
Thank you. When you first brought up the first, I'm not going to remember what you said, but it reminded me how important it is also to secure your portraits and your videos through some kind of documentation storage. And so there's actually a local gentleman here that has keepitsaved.com, and it's triple secured. And then there's another organization called forever.com that I'm considering becoming an affiliate with. But I think that's another really valuable step to this. And I don't know that I put that in. Oh, that reminds me, the very last slideshow I had was a bonus. It was a feedback form, but we just missed out.
All right. Or you can even put it in the chat later, but that's a really good point that you made, because I know my brother interviewed my grandfather before he passed away. He made it almost to 100, and my brother interviewed him and did a cassette tape. But now, good luck finding a cassette player.
Yep.
So that's one of the problems with putting these things on different formats. As time goes on, you either have to keep switching up what format you have it on or risk losing it all because now it's become obsolete. But that's one of the things I just love about photography. Like a good photo can last hundreds of years and hold that memory and that inspiration. But yes, but I guess maybe if you can tell us about your gift. So you've got a regular gift for everyone.
Yes, and it's a starter kit. So, like I said, you've got your phone, and that you can totally do this with your phone. The Legacy Starter Kit has some prompts in it. There's a letter from me explaining why you need to do this now and not wait. That it's very important that it's a gift of identity and belonging and love. There's no reason for you to put this off because you have the recording capabilities. You also mentioned the cassette tape thing. I do want to say that it's really important to get things digitized. I mean, discs are hardly a thing anymore, even thumb
Oh,
drives.
exactly.
How many computers can't even read a thumb drive anymore? And so one of the services that I offer is to digitize that kind of media and securely back it up, and also photo restoration.
Perfect. And what about your VIP gift?
There isn't a VIP gift, but maybe I can throw that in as that bonus gift that I was going to do at that last slide.
Perfect. Yeah, you can just send that to Linda and maybe she can add that into the
Sure,
VIP pool.
that'd be great.
Yes, yes, we will do that. Yeah, and thinking about the because when Kathy mentioned the cassette tapes, made me think about music, how they're bringing back record players. You know, record players are now back, you know, back in fashion. So maybe cassette tapes will be back in fashion. I doubt it, but you never know. Maybe they'll be there.
Or
Um,
8 tracks.
yeah, yeah. I think it's so important. You know, there are a lot of people who maybe it's, I'm not sure. I'm just gonna use my phrasing, okay? Whether it's vanity or it's, you know, they don't like the way they look, they don't want to get their pictures taken. But what that's doing is it's not preserving the way they look today. I remember one day I did a video, I was doing a live video and I had my selfie stick and I had my phone on my selfie stick. And I thought, I wonder what I look like to a 4-year-old. So I stuck my camera down as if I was a 4-year-old looking, and I
Oh,
did the whole
no.
video with it as if this 4-year-old was looking up at me, and not flattering at all, by the way. But that wasn't the point. It's not about us showing up in flattering ways all the time. It's about
Yes.
us showing up as who we are. And so I think that's a really important piece, is like, get those pictures taken. You know, thank you for sharing this. Because when my mom was alive, we had 4 generations and we don't have a picture of all 4 generations. You know, and
Wow.
she's gone. Like, we'll never get that back. And so definitely get those pictures taken. You can get a cassette player on Temu.
Direct from China.
Well, you know what? I've kept my daughter when she was little, she had a karaoke machine that had a cassette player and a CD player and the microphone. I've kept that so that I have
Oh
it.
my God. That's awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Zoe. And yeah, if you can drop in the chat what that VIP, actually send me, because it's going to be a VIP gift. In order to get the VIP gifts, you do need to upgrade. And so Zoe, tell us what that VIP gift is going to be, and then we will be adding it to the VIP portal.
Yeah, it's 10 bonus questions that you should answer for future generations.
10 bonus questions you should
Answer for future
answer.
generations.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome. I love it. So click on the link inside of the chat to upgrade to the VIP. And thanks for your presentation, Zoe. This was great. Really love, you know, just reminding us how important it is for us to, you know, capture what's here right now in the moment. I was in a serious car accident 2.5 weeks ago. I could have died, and then I wouldn't have had, you know, well, I've done thousands of videos, so I'm out there, but you know, some people haven't done what I've done. And so, you know, really to get yourself out there, and get those pictures taken, those videos taken, what have you. So connect with Zoe and
Linda,
make
too,
it
I
happen.
want to, comment about the books that we do. That's a big part of the books too,
Yeah.
because in all of the books that we're involved in, that each author is sharing their personal journey and their challenges and their triumphs, and based on the theme of each different book. But even doing things like that, where you're putting that piece of your history down on paper and
Yes,
releasing it out into the world, is really powerful too.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, thank you so much, Zoe, and truly appreciate everything you're doing to help people to get themselves out there and leave that legacy behind, or building the legacy while they're here and then leaving it behind when they're gone.
There you go. I appreciate you.
Thank you.